Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Easter Monday. I hope you've got a day off too. I've had 3 whole days off, so it's been absolutely amazing. And of course, the most exciting news I have to share with you is I finished my book. Yay! Can't quite believe it. So really excited about that. 50,000 words. So at some point in the near future, between the spreadsheets, classifying and fixing dirty data will be with you. But before that, I'm really excited about today. So I often talk to you about my special magic software that I use to help me do my job. And today I have Paula from Visualising to actually go through Omniscope, and not necessarily with what I do, because she doesn't necessarily know that either. It's my secret magic sauce. But there are loads of different ways that Omniscope can be used, many more than I know. So she's going to come on and show us some examples of how we can use it. And for me, it's such a great tool because it saves me so much time. I can data model and visualize and even edit data in the same space without having to flick around. So it's absolutely brilliant. Can't recommend it enough. So without further ado, I will bring on the lady herself. Hello, Paula. How are you?
Hello, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's so weird though, because we've only actually seen each other in the last year since lockdown. Before that, we only ever communicated by email for about, 6 years or something?
Correct. I think it's been like a Zoom year for everyone. And I think people also, although we had email communication and online meetings, people are now used to talking and looking at each other via Zoom or other methods. So it's nice. And
and then also I kind of came back to you again because a client I was working for, they had someone in the States using Omniscope that has used Michelle, that's used it for years. And so through her, it was like we kind of got connected for that client as well. So it's, goodness knows how many other connections we've got.
No, it was interesting because we get lots of word of mouth because we're not sort of huge in marketing. It's just the usability and how user-friendly the tool is. People, once they start using it, they love it and they could take it from one company to another. And although it's like something you might have not heard through, some other methods, people will recommend it very often.
And when I show my clients when I'm using it, they always ask, "Oh, what's that?" So I'm really excited to see what you're going to show us today, and also the other kinds of possibilities that I haven't considered using Omniscope for, because you just never know. But tell us a little more about Visualising. I mean, how you guys have been around for at least 20 years, I want to say?
It is. I've been with the company for 10 years and Omniscope started, I mean, the mission was always to have like one tool that contains everything, that has this comprehensive toolbox that will allow you to integrate the data, transform it, calculate, recalculate, and then visualize it without having to leave that single platform, single tool. So there's no spillage anywhere along the line, because very often in companies you will find that they're using one tool to integrate the data from different platforms. Then they will apply another tool to clean it and then transfer it to another tool to visualize it, or send to various users CSV files so they can visualize it in their own Excel. And that's, hardly the most efficient way to handle the data.
Yeah, I remember so while we've been kind of talking for good 6-8 years, I first came across Omniscope when I worked at Colgate. So that was about 2008, maybe. That's when I first came across it. So it's used in, you are, I guess, to me, you're my like little special secret, because you have loads of great clients. I mean, you're working with some of the largest companies, but, you're just getting on and doing your thing.
We are a small company with big clients and big heart and a big passion for the data.
Yeah.
So it's, we're not really keen to be the loudest and biggest, but we do what we like, and we have this really passionate relationship, and we like to also offer very good customer service, so we almost like
Your
know people and
support
they know us.
it feels really personal to me. You know, you're
Yeah.
not just another software company with a customer service, no face, no named person at the other side. It's like, Paula, can you help with this?
We like to know our customers, and you know, you are a customer, you're not a ticket.
Yeah, definitely
And
feel like that.
and we also, that's another thing, we tend to keep track of what people are doing, because we work with companies that might be bank, might be digital media companies, might be defense, might be oil drilling companies. It really, you know, we have variety of people, but we like to keep track of what is it that they are doing with data, and what is it that they would like to do, and maybe they cannot do it today. And then that's something that because we're listening all the time, so we try to feed that into our development as well.
Yeah.
And then if there was something that you wanted to do 6 months ago, you may find it in the next newsletter. You can do it now.
Yeah. We've got a quick question here from Ramdas. Would Omniscope help in cataloging data? Well, I can answer that, because I use it to classify data. So yes, absolutely, I would say to that.
We will have a look in a second at some
so
examples.
Yeah, so that's great. So what kind of things are you going to be sharing with us today?
I will run through several demos where you can look at the final product, but then you can also look, so to say, under the bonnet, how it's done.
That's what we like.
I think that when you're working with data, you also have to, it's helpful that that role is not divorced, that the people who are working with data are not IT people who are just, doing their part of the job. It's always so much more meaningful that people who are visualizing or working with data know what they want to get out of it at the other end.
Yeah.
And Omniscope is very accessible tool, in a sense that it's all drag and drop. You don't have to do the coding. You don't have to be, I don't know, black belt,
No,
in some IT
have
protocols.
A business. Like, I literally have a business because of you guys. And I'm always telling people that I can dedupe and on multiple columns at the press of a button. I love telling people that.
So it's easy to create, and we have this toolbox that looks like it's full of Lego bricks. So you're dragging and dropping things and creating this model that, on most occasions you will create it once, and then, you can tweak it occasionally. But once you've got a bit of experience, you will design it in a way that, the whole thing requires minimal input and minimal maintenance. So you don't have to.
So because I'm in a different position, because every project I work on is a different set of data. So I get to build different models every time. But I love the model building bit as well. So that's good. Michael's just asking, are we going to see the raw data first? But we will, because we'll see it as even if it's been dropped in. So we can do that. And of course, the man himself is here, Mr. Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer, my friend, my buddy. How are you, Scott? So should we get started? So I think you can share your screen at the bottom. There's a little, and then I think I just
you can let me know once you can.
There we go.
See my screen.
So, there we go. Look.
So I promised that I was going to work with football data, and then
We've got people clapping away already. They're getting excited, so that's good news.
And it's not a static thing. You can. This is a report that was designed by using some online repository of somebody's collecting these things. So it is, for anybody who is passionate about football, they can get all the stats and click on it and get the updates. But what Omniscope is not just this beautiful dashboarding tool. I mean, you can also see that
it's my favorite bit. That's the bit behind it.
That it has two faces. So first part of every task, as we know, is the data. And in this specific case, so on the left hand side we see the workflow. These are data blocks that maybe look like similar tools that you've seen, for example, Alteryx or tools like that. But so you build really the workflow and this transformation logic by using the blocks. So whether you're operating with files or you want to use databases, maybe you want to pick up the whole folder full of files. All these things are available. We also cater for connectors and have various APIs. And even if you can't see the, if you have some exotic data source, you can always write R or Python script to connect to the data source.
So flexible.
So all these orange blocks that you're seeing are different data sources. And in this specific case, for example, we've got football results. So question was, what does the raw data look like? So let me first say, this data source is not even sitting. We don't have to download the data. We can just point the tool to the data wherever it may be. So whether it's local file or it's a file that somebody posted on the internet, and this is what the data looks like. So it may or may not be tidy, and we all know that data is almost never ready to be visualized. And there's always something that you want to do with it. So in each and every Omniscope block, you will see this data preview, and you can very easily scroll through the data in order to figure out, do I really need all these fields? I mean, why did this person collect all these? Never mind. But, you can very easily decide and create your model with only the data that you need. So what this specific model is doing, it's really doing the data harvesting. It's picking up data through the 90s, 2000s. So here it's bringing together, appending those files. So we have all the football results from 1993 up to, I think, last night's game.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and you don't even, all you need to just refresh the model. You don't even need to
exactly.
So anything in.
Correct. So you can either refresh manually this button, or you can even use, we have schedule application.
Let me just take my logo away because it might be hiding where you're clicking. If you could do that again.
Oh, okay. So basically this is the data preview, and
just the refresh bit. I think was it the top right? So that's the little refresh button.
So once you've brought the data that comes from different sources, there's always something you want to do. So in terms of cleaning, and this is a nice thing about Omniscope as well. So anybody who's interested in this data audit, there's always highlight where you've made the change. You can always see that these surplus fields are removed. It's all very transparent, so at any point you can go in and out and see what's changed. You can even change data orientation, so to change something that was a column into a single column. So if you had January, February, March, you can easily just transform and go through those steps. So there are so many different things that you can do in terms of data preparations, in terms of filtering, aggregation. You can also perform all sorts of calculations and merge the data with information that's coming from other sources in order to enrich your information before you visualize it. So and also you can plug related and unrelated data sets into this report that is your interactive output. So you could, let's say, allocate information about the stadiums and where they are in order to visualize everything together. So you get a compact report. But these are sort of the nitty-gritty elements of data transformation. And one thing that I always like to highlight is that if you start thinking about this process, about the whole harmonization and where the data is starting from, how is it being transformed, and how you want it to end up, because it's not always the interactive, all singing, dancing dashboard that people want to get. You can also have a report where you can have outputs that may be data dumps. You can create files, you can push data back into a database, you can have all sorts of outputs, because the idea is that this process, this whole model is bringing together not just data from different sources, it's also uniting different role players in a company, because you will always have a group of people who are working on the data, preparing it, transforming it, and then you've got the whole management layer, and then you've got audience that may wish to receive this colorful dashboard, but they also may wish to receive just a data collection. They may wish to receive just flat file, and this is also something that you can integrate into this process, so that you really minimize your energy that's invested into the process, and also the amount of time that people have to wait and in order to get their hands on the data in whatever shape it needs to be.
Yeah. Ramdas is asking, with this tool, can you track data drifts? Is that right? Does that make sense to you?
What is the data drift?
Okay, Ramdas, if you want to just explain what a data drift is to you. And then Michael's also asking, can you schedule auto reports to different email addresses?
Yes.
There you go, Michael.
So you can have something that's called batch output.
Oh, sorry. I just pressed the wrong button there. There you go.
No worries. So you can have like a single email output, or you can have a batch output, which will allow you to create 100 different outputs for 100 different users.
Nice.
We also have something that's called, we also have a mechanism of customizing the data subset that people are seeing. For example, let's say we've got one report, but we want to allow people to have different data visible to them based on their login. So it's called multi-tenant reporting. So we also have that mechanism too. So you don't have to customize and create 10 different versions for 10 different user groups. You can simply create user group, and if they are from sales team, they will see sales, or if they are from team A, they will only see their sales figures, not everybody else's. So you can compartmentalize based on somebody's login.
Oh, I just find out new stuff all the time and just love it even more.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And there are also all the nice steps that you can integrate when you are bringing the data day in, day out. Because again, it's all nice and working once you just configure the model. But as we all know, you will get another data set next day, next week, next month, and it has to be designed to be waterproof if somebody makes a typo, or if somebody's renamed a column, or done something that will not agree with the model as it exists. So we also have something that's called validate data, which is a single step, single block that will allow you to do multiple data level checks. So whether that's schema validation, which is evaluating what are the fields that you have in your data set, are they all in correct format? So you can have, date, but it may be formatted as a text, and that's not going to integrate nicely and append with your existing data. So if you are expecting 50 fields and get 49, or you get 55, that's again can be flagged. You also may wish to validate what's inside the cells. Can your date be 3 days, greater than the day in a date can be greater than 31. If it's 32, then it cannot be right. So you can validate the values inside the cells, and you can also validate how many records are you expecting. Maybe just one aggregated record, or maybe 10, or maybe not more than 100, but you've got 10 times. Again, that's something you can include here in order to either create a warning or error, or just sort of a message that will be emailed to you without stopping the data from flowing through to your report.
Brilliant. So Ramdas is back. He said that a data drift means change of data at source. So his original question was, can you means change of data at source. So you can track the change of data at source. Yeah, you can.
You can, I mean, you can also use parameterized data sources. So you could say that I'm going to just create a dummy parameter that maybe, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Larry's here. He's already on the same train of thought.
So this path here could be my hello link. And you could have like multiple reports pointing to the same new source. You can also parameterize and bookmark the sources. So for example, if you have a database that you're using all the time and you've moved the location of your database or you've changed a password, this again can be your parameter. And people will not even know what that parameter is, what the password is, while only single person who is administrator will be able to access this block in multiple reports by just changing this password parameter.
Brilliant. We've got another question as well. Johan, can you expose the metadata as an API by the way each step in the orchestration canvas? That doesn't make sense to me, so I'm gonna
we have a metadata block, and for example I've used it, and you can, I'll just pin it to one side. So for example, why I used it here, I had on the left hand side new data for tennis matches coming from 2021, 2021, and I had some historic data. So before bringing those two together, I wanted to make sure that they have the same fields, the same values, that they're compatible before I append them together. And you can see here. So you can do this thing in two ways, by using validation that we just looked at, which is screening all the fields, all the values at the same time. However, we could also use metadata. So I just, for the fun of it, I wanted to have a look at what are the field names and what are the field types. So I can pin this to 2020, and I can also do the same for this guy. And you can, I mean, you don't want to you don't want to do this evaluation manually by looking left and right. So I did a nice merge, and I said, okay, something is a match if a field exists on both sides and if it's the same data type. And then if something doesn't match, I want to have a look, and I've found 3 mismatches. So in 2020, there were fields 1, 2, and 3, and they were a particular data type that wasn't matching with the other side. So I knew that I had to fix this. I had to fix this before I bring these two together.
Yeah. That's great. Another question. If the key of data changed at source, or if the columns got dropped, I'm not sure it's a question exactly. Ramdas, if you want to just maybe be a bit more specific on that, and then we'll answer that for you. But yeah, there's so many different great little tools and tricks that you can use. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, and also just the sort of ordinary steps, like, deduplicate always before merging, check your normalized case, search replacing, all those things.
I have massive problems with the normalized case when I do it, because there's lots of I guess I could build something to fix it, but all the HR, the ITs, the TVs, those kinds of things.
Because sometimes when you're doing aggregation of data, or maybe you're aggregating on a name, sometimes you want to treat differently if it's AA capital, and then, or whether it's, which case it is. So it's always best to just screen and make sure it is done in a way that you want it to be used in calculation later. Because Omniscope can do both. It can treat differently different title case and uppercase and
sentence case as well, I think. Yeah.
So it's always best to make sure it's
well, it's a lot better. I'm just going to talk about my book from now to forever, but so most of the book is done in Excel so that anyone can try it. So one of the things that you have to do is use a formula to then put it into uppercase or normal sentence case or proper case. So yeah, this saves loads of time.
And again, data is data, so you could use this. I mean, this is like tennis data, so you could create reports about tennis titles, and it's really your own creativity and knowledge of the subject that are limiting you. But you could use it and apply it. For example, here I'm using Omniscope to point it to GitHub in order to retrieve John Hopkins data about COVID cases, and it's refreshing itself, and it runs every day, and you get your own data. You don't have to switch on and look at the news. All these things you can just retrieve immediately, and it's so easy to do because all you're doing really is adding blocks and creating the workflow that you understand and you can access and edit at any point, because that is another really nice thing about having everything in one tool, that if you realize that this label is too long, you can very easily jump back and forth and name, rename, add a formula, duplicate and have a shorter one, edit it, and see the change immediately in your dashboard. It's just that trip back and forth from preparation. You don't have to contact somebody to rerun a query or do something for you, so you can apply that change in your dashboard.
Yeah. No, it looks good.
And this is my, you might like this one. I've done this last night, because how you have all these, for example, colors, and this looks totally boring. These are just the RGB colors and hex color, and this is something we struggle with. Sometimes if you want to create a nice looking dashboard. So picking a color, whether that's for your wall or I
wonder if Kate Strachan is listening, because Kate Strachan is about to write a book on color for visualizations.
So I just thought, why not plot it in 3D space?
Oh, look at that!
Because every color has 3 components, and when you see RGB, that's red, green, and blue, and you can say, I want colors that contain more blue, or I want colors that and more green, in order to and
okay, who else is geeking out right now? That is so cool.
And
why am I not using this more?
And it's just going from there to there is just what you want to do.
Yes.
And again, selecting, clicking, browsing through the data, going back and forth is so easy, and doing this drill down when you are really investigating anomaly, or why your sales are up or down, or what is the outlier, what's wrong with I'm expecting twice as much sales, but something's gone wrong.
That chart reminds me of Spirograph. Did you have that when you
no,
it's like a little circle, and you put the pen in, and then it kind of go, and it's a small circle in a big circle, and you just kind of go round and round and round and round and round.
Okay.
That's what it reminds me of.
But that's another a nice thing is just this. Once you've done your preparation well, once you've done your groundwork, then you can spend time and do this drilling down and
so Sorry, I'm just asking loads of, never mind everybody else, I'm asking loads of questions. So say I was doing a chart with like suppliers by value, I could do it in 3D?
Anything, I mean, generally speaking, 3D visualizations most times don't work, and 3D pies especially are not really to be used. But this was a perfect case because RGB color doesn't work in 2D, it is a 3D thing. So you've got 3 coordinates, and I thought, you know, come on, this is a perfect scenario.
Oh, Kate is here. So, Kate, we are talking colors and charts, and look at this 3D chart. It's pretty awesome. I'm getting really excited by that. Yeah, I need to find ways that I can use that.
So anything that really has 3 dimensions, and you know, it could be meters, liters, temperature, but as long as it's meaningful, you can put it in 3D scatter.
And yeah, definitely no 3D pies. We say no pies at all if possible.
I mean, I love cheesecakes, but 3D pies in dashboard, no.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. I knew it. I am not using this enough and as much as I should be. So yeah, guys, you can all have like a month's free trial. So the web link is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, but I will pop it in the chat again. Just tell them that I sent you, just so that they know, and have a play around and see what you think.
So no, I mean, anybody can just go to our website, and then by all means, if you say that you are coming from Susan, then you get a bit extra.
Yeah,
so
I've got the link. Michael, we're going to have to stop being friends. As long as it's not a pie chart, we'll be okay. Brilliant. See, I could be making the most awesome visuals.
I mean, you could have, there are also things, again, that are not just for good looks, but sometimes it makes sense to have an image either as a background or part of your presentation. And you can also have integrated web content. So for example, if you're talking about performance of a website, or you know, of a product, and the product was sold on some e-commerce website, then you could have that in the frame as well. So if you're comparing the performance of multiple products, you could have the listings for those products as well. So and make it interactive, so when you click on one, you only see that
charts
product.
At the bottom look amazing. In fact, I think I'm cutting them off a little bit, so let's get rid of my bar.
Oh, the Sankey.
Yeah.
The Sankey view is actually quite a famous, and it's not even my own. It's telling you really.
Heard of it.
It's telling you who survived from which class. So you've got male, female.
Is this is the Titanic data? I hear a lot of my data friends talking about the Titanic data.
Exactly, it's just survival statistics. So basically, we again used a website to simply get a snapshot of the data. So it's a list of all the passengers with their demographics, some information where they came from, and which what type of tickets they had, which class they were traveling in, and that was interesting to then reflect in this analysis, showing how many of people survived depending on which class they were traveling in, and it did have, I mean, it did have effect. So people who were closer to the decks, that they were standing a better chance of getting on the boats.
Coming from Kate saying this is nice, that is a huge compliment.
Thank you. But also again,
really nice color scheme though. Like honestly, like, and the colors do make the difference, I think.
That is true, and sometimes if you spend extra time picking the colors, so because here, for example, I took the color that was here I started with a picture, and I wanted it to be similar to the painting, But even if you're not really good with colors, it's worth just going onto the googling nice dashboard and stealing the color scheme, and nobody will know.
Well, I mean, colors are not exclusive to anyone, so
Absolutely. So you can steal a color combination, and another thing is
more inspiration. Inspiration, not stealing.
yeah, I would say another thing is that it's nice. Okay, I'm using from our a link from our sandbox. Once you've designed the dashboard, when you want to share it and you configured your machine for sharing, when you send this link to somebody, they will be able to open the report as it is on their machine without having to download the software or the report itself.
Brilliant.
So that is again a nice step that makes the data and reports more accessible, because there's no need for them to sit in front of a computer, because they could be somewhere on the shop floor, they could be somewhere in transit, and if they have iPad, even if they have a phone, they will be able to open this report and interrogate it and get the latest sales data, because we have sometimes people who are dealing with retail data and they're driving around visiting different shops, and if they have report how the shop that they're about to visit is doing, then that makes their life much easier.
That's great. And they would have to have an Omniscope license to be able to access that. Is that right?
Not really, because with this is all about Omniscope now working as a web application. So the person who is hosting the report and creating the reports, they are physically responsible for report hosting. So, if anybody who goes, because this is, for example, our own sandbox, and I can post this link in the chat. So anybody could click on this link and get access to the workflow and to the report, and they don't need to download anything. The only thing they won't be able to do is, because they're not authenticated, they won't be able to make any edits, because again, once something starts working as a web application, you have to have authentication and permissioning system that will make sure that your data is safe as well, and only people who are supposed to see the report will get access.
Yeah. If you put the link in the private chat, I can put it into LinkedIn, so if anyone wants to go and have a look at it.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that after the call.
Cool.
Okay. Any other? I mean, are there any sort of scenarios that you find that people are struggling with, or something that is a constant challenge?
I think everybody struggles with dirty data sets, so the cleansing part is definitely something that people are struggling with. So if you have, I think it was the cleaning box that you used. So just to explain, so Paula is demoing Evo, which is the cloud-based version. I work a lot in the desktop-based version, which is slightly older and looks a bit different. So that's why I'm not familiar as much with these boxes, but I should be using this more, and I will make an effort to use it more.
There's no harm. You can. I mean, we have two editions of our product, and for some people, Classic works, and that is a desktop application, and some people are now used to Evo, and they like this ease of access, because
I say on the modeling side, for me, this is much better. When I do my classification wizardry, then that's when Classic really works for me.
Yeah. I would say it really depends from one user to another, and what really is attractive for companies to accept Evo is that this whole multi-user concept where you install the tool on a single machine or a single server, and you just give access to the whole team.
Yeah.
And they don't need to install anything, download file, exchange files, because if you have two users looking at this same report, let's say I'm just gonna quickly copy paste this. So if you have somebody moving this block here, the other guy the other guy will see it straight away.
Yeah.
On a screen.
Brilliant.
Maybe in Australia.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
That is really good. So I guess the things that I use the modeling side for would be to merge together multiple files. So if those files have different column names for the same type of column, then I would use a field organizer to rename everything to make sure that they're all named the same.
Actually, they don't have to be called the same.
What?
Oh,
I love this. This is how I find out better ways to work.
The fields don't have to be called the same thing if you know that they contain.
Door. No way.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And a nice thing about it, before you merge two things, you can also pin them and have one guy and the other just look at the data, so you know that this field, country, and so here it is. It's called country ID winner, and here is just code ISO 3 because this is the standard code. You can decide, even like have this pinned and look at this. So decide what is the field you're going to pick from left and from right.
Wow.
And then decide whether you're going to bring in non-matching records from left or from right. You could also, something I do, if I think that everything should be matching, or I shouldn't have any non-matching records for my transactional thing, then you can also have double scenario where you say, okay, here is my good data that's found a match, and here I've got my non-matching. So show me what's not matching. I want to know.
Yeah.
And then you can see what are the odd ones that you need to do something about.
I like on the joins, if I've taken, say, deduplicated some rows, I can provide the client with a separate list of what's been deleted, so that they can just double check that everything that's come out should have come out. So I find that really helpful.
I mean, you could also just create a little data dump. So let's say these are the odd fields, and you can save them in a file and send it to somebody as email, or even save it in a dedicated location where somebody's going to look at it and fix it.
Yeah.
And then next time this goes through the cycles, then everything will, hopefully all the data will find itself in the matching box.
Okay, so Ramdas is saying that getting good test data is a challenge. I hear that quite a lot. Do you have any recommendations on?
Absolutely. I get that problem all the time, because although we work with clients who have real world data,
you can't share.
we always have to sign NDAs, and that's not the data we're allowed to share. So I have to resort to going through public and open data sets. But thankfully, there's so many open data sources these days. So even UK government has big repository, like London as a city has huge data repository. Like I've yesterday downloaded, and I'm gonna just use this to show you how Omniscope starts. So let me see, traffic. Okay, so this is TFL data. I'm dragging the CSV file that London TFL posted on London's website. So I'm dragging this, and Omniscope is asking me, "Do you want to create a new project?" And I'm saying, "Yes, please." So the moment I've downloaded this, I can see that we've got some information about CCTV camera captures, and it's monthly data from 2010 to 2021. So they're measuring how many camera captures, so vehicles that enter the congestion zone. So this is something we may wish to analyze. And I can just quickly make sure that, and this is best practice always when you're working with Omniscope, have a field organizer block where you can name, rename, and look at the data formatting. So, do we need all the fields? Yes, no, I don't think we need this one. Number of charging day.
And I love it, just because you're deleting it, but you're not really deleting it. You're just kind of hiding it. So
exactly.
you
If
can
3 months
always
down
go
the
back
line,
and get it back.
Any change you've made, you can always go back and make a change. So we could just add a formula field, calculate averages, do that sort of thing. I don't know, just say.
I do that if I want. Well, actually, now I don't need to do that because you've got the sentence, the normalized block. But yeah, it equals upper.
I'm doing this in a naughty way. Every time you're dividing something with a number, it's always good to have if statements, so you don't end up red-faced if there's no data. So you're dividing with 0 or nothing. But let's say that we are now okay, and we want to visualize this data. I'm just going to run this. So and say okay. And this is what Omniscope looks like when you just open it. You get default bar view, filters, and table. And this is just to make your life a bit easier. So you can then decide and say, okay, on the left-hand side, I've got my fields, and what I want to look at is maybe continuity and create a time series. And instead of record count, I'm going to look at, I don't know how many CCTV camera captures they've had.
And you can just drag and drop, which is great.
It's all really drag and drop. And then if you change your mind, you can have, pick a different statistical function. You could drag a different field. It's all really, so, I mean, they didn't start measuring both at the same time. So all these things you can just, again, drag and drop, decide on your styling, have maybe different field, different measure. So layer on top of each other.
Yeah.
And then decide which filters to give to your audience. Do you want each and every? Are they relevant? And now suddenly this starts looking like, looking like a report that you can investigate and then share with others.
So yeah, it dips off and then there's a big peak at the end.
Yeah, let me see. So we'll just decide instead of intervals to have.
Oh. Is that like Christmas and New Year, maybe? I can't see the dates.
I'm just looking for the dip in when we had lockdown. So that was April last year. There was a big dip, and then the numbers went back to normal, which or even higher than normal. So
that's really interesting.
I don't know if that might be the Uber vehicles or ambulances, or why
Yeah.
you would have more vehicles going through central London in the time of COVID, and when all
Because
the
if you're in a
companies.
car, you're safe, aren't you? That's the mentality.
I don't know, but again, so this is you know, a data set
Yeah.
that came from, you know, open data source, and you can either download that type of data or even use Omniscope's own demo data to play with it, because we've got quite a few data sources, and you know, you can play with either transactional data. So we've got, you know, all sorts of interesting sports data, or, you know, business transactions, sales, all sorts of things. If you're just experimenting and you want to have a look how how the tool feels like, you know, then you don't have to go far. We package with Omniscope demo data, also the lookup data that contains lat long information for different countries. So you can have a look if you're
So you could do like a geographical kind of visualization.
correct. So if your data set has names of the countries, or it has maybe British postcode, and you want to visualize this on a map in Omniscope, then you could just merge your own data set with Omniscope lookup data that contains lat long coordinates.
Getting so many ideas. That is brilliant. Thank you so much. So if we take that off, what do you have similar types of issues or challenges that you help organizations face, or is it different within every single one?
I think it's different company, different
Or
problem,
is there like
because
industry problems maybe, or is it just completely?
I would say every company is different. I mean, we've just recently completed a big project for one data company that's dealing with IoT, Internet of Things,
Oh
and they
wow.
have absolutely humongous volumes of data and a small team. So
Well, so that's another good thing to really cover off, is that the Omniscope can handle those kinds of volumes of data as well.
exactly, and our challenge was not only to think of a way how to harmonize the data that will survive new new values in fields. So we had to come up with a catalog of fields that they were going to agree to, so that maintenance of the whole system is going to be totally minimal. The system would sort of run itself, and nobody would even have to go and press the button. But again, it was a challenge having consistency in the data set, and also divorcing the users from the process where they have to mingle and even access this workflow. So we
Yeah.
would give the users, most of the users in the team, just access to the data source where they would deposit a file in a folder, and they, you know, this whole workflow would run and update itself. So because they were very conscious that if somebody opened a workflow and, you know, did something and messed up the algorithm, you know, things could break. So we said, okay, we could even design it in a way that we give authenticated users access to the workflow, while other users can safely just handle the data and not even have to open the workflow,
Yeah.
do anything with it.
That's great. Michael's also asking a question, Mr. Stroops. What's the most complicated data set you've analysed?
There was we were working with one company in Norway. They were doing oil drilling, and they had to analyze presence and measurements of different elements at different depths. So, and also visualize it in a way so that you're getting this picture as you're going deeper, you're getting different measurements.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting data set. But it's, I would say it's not even what the data set can look like on the surface. Sometimes you can have this, and I've seen this recently, I've had this most benign looking data set that was just list of incidents in a month. But what the requirements were is to do the breakdown of those incidents, whether they fell into working hours, not working hours, whether the event was planned, not planned, maintenance.
Yeah.
So you had to really, and also calculate whether the multiple events overlapped, because if they overlap, then it doesn't count.
Oh,
and it's just jumping through the hoops to get all those calculations done made that, I think, one of the most complex workflows that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it's not just what the data set looks on the surface, it's what you have to do with it in order to get it right and to calculate all the KPIs that are needed.
Brilliant. Oh, yeah. I mean, I constantly learn new things every time we talk. And now I feel like I have time to actually go and play around and experiment more and, you know, maybe go back to some old data sets and redo them in Evo and make some nice visualizations and just...
Absolutely. I would say anybody who's on this call, I mean, you can get free 30-day free trial if you click on this link on our website, and if you have questions, contact us, and then if you like to buy, then use Susan's code, because you will get a discount with this recommendation, so it's well worth studying and experimenting with.
And so they can find you on the website, they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, visokio.com, and you can
tag you in this
the invite.
You can find you there. And you can ask me for some questions if you want. I'm not sure if I'll have the answers, but you can also ask Paula. So yeah, thank you so much. So that's it for another week.
Thank you so much for having me on the day to end. It was a pleasure.
I definitely want you back because I want to learn more stuff. And maybe next time I'll put out some questions beforehand to see what people actually, if they've got a problem they need to solve, and see if we can do something with that. So I will slip you backstage now. Thank you so much for your time, Paula. Great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
And thank you for coming on Easter Monday as well.
It was great. No, it was a lovely, quiet day, and it was something nice to do.
Yeah, I know the sun's come out now. It was snowing earlier.
It was snowing in London as well.
Yeah, it's bizarre weather. I was sitting out in the sun yesterday as well. It's crazy. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. That's it for me this week, guys. I can't even remember who I've got on next week. I'm on holiday today, so you'll just have to wait for the post and I will tell you then. Thank you so much for watching today. It's been really great for me, and hopefully for you as well. Love your feedback. If there's anyone else you would like to see come on the show, or anything else that you would like a topic discussed, something like that, then just let me know. Otherwise, I will leave you for this week. Have a lovely rest of day/evening, and I will see you soon. Thanks very much.